What's undeniable, though, is that this casting news injects fresh energy into a season that already promised to be full of shakeups. Between other cast changes, lingering questions about certain romances, and the usual mix of daring rescues and personal crossroads, Chicago Fire Season 14 was shaping up to be a transitional year. Bringing this character back adds a thread of familiarity and nostalgia that can help anchor longtime viewers through the changes. It's a reminder that even in a franchise known for its revolving door of departures and arrivals, some connections are too strong to sever completely. Of course, with any high-profile return, expectations run high, and that's where the danger lies. The fandom isn't just happy to see this character again. They want them to be treated with the respect they deserved all along. They want storylines that justify the wait, interactions that tap into the deep bonds built over years, and moments that remind everyone why this person was so essential to the fabric of Firehouse 51. Simply having them pop up in a few background scenes won't cut it. If Chicago Fire is going to undo the frustration of Season 13, it has to commit to giving this character a real place in the heart of the show again. There's also the fascinating question of how their return might impact existing dynamics. Will their reappearance reignite old friendships or rivalries? Could they become a mentor to one of the newer recruits, bridging the gap between the old guard and the next generation? Or will they find themselves struggling to adapt if the house has changed more than they expected? Chicago Fire has always excelled at weaving character drama into the procedural framework, and this comeback is ripe for that kind of layered storytelling. Behind the scenes, the return also speaks to the unpredictable nature of TV production. Cast departures and returns often have as much to do with real-world schedules, contracts, and personal choices as they do with fictional storylines. Sometimes an exit is permanent because an actor wants to move on. Other times, circumstances change. A different project wraps up, a personal break ends, or the timing simply feels right for a reunion. Whatever the case here, the fact that the door was left open enough for this return to happen is a testament to the collaborative nature of the One Chicago family. And that's part of why this comeback feels so significant. In a television landscape where beloved characters often disappear forever with no chance of return, Chicago Fire has built a reputation for keeping those doors cracked open. Characters leave and return in ways that reflect real life. People move away, take new jobs, or face personal challenges, but sometimes they find their way back home. This return is a reminder that Firehouse 51 is more than just a workplace. It's a home for its members, and the bonds forged there can weather even the messiest of exits. Still, as excited as fans are, there's a collective holding of breath. They remember the frustration of Season 13, the disappointment of feeling like a favorite was written out without ceremony. They want to believe that Season 14 will right that wrong, but they've been around long enough to know that not all comebacks live up to the hype. In the coming months, as more details trickle out about how the character will be reintegrated, the conversation will shift from "they're back" to "how are they back?" And that's the real test. If done right, this return could become one of Chicago Fire's most satisfying arcs, transforming a low point in the show's recent history into a redemption story both on-screen and off. It could give the character a fresh chapter worthy of their legacy and remind viewers why they fell in love with them in the first place. It could even serve as a blueprint for how to handle future exits and returns, proving that with enough care, even a frustrating departure can lead to a triumphant homecoming. If done wrong, well, Season 13 won't be easily forgotten. For now, though, optimism is winning. The news of this return has brought a surge of excitement to the One Chicago fandom, sparking fan art, watch party plans, and endless theorizing about first scenes and reunion moments. Whatever the reasons for the abrupt goodbye last year, the fact remains that this star is coming back, and that's a rare and precious thing in the unpredictable world of network television. Firehouse 51 is about to feel a little more like itself again, and that alone is worth celebrating. Because in the end, Chicago Fire isn't just about the emergencies, the heroics, or the high-octane action. It's about the people, their bonds, their resilience, and their ability to come back from anything. And in that sense, this return isn't just a casting announcement. It's a story about second chances, both for the character and for the show that, this time, has a chance to get it right. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe my sister wives to our channel. Three
and
Chicago Fire stars exited the show after season 13, but now one of them is confirmed to come back for season 14, albeit not permanently. NBC let go of Jake Lockett and Daniel Kinney shortly before the season 13 finale. Then, it was announced that Michael Bradway wouldn't return for Chicago Fire season 14, bringing the total cast exits to 3. What Daniel Kinney's return means for Chicago Fire season 14. Although Kinney confirmed his presence in Chicago Fire season 14, it appears he's still not long for the show. As he said, Ritter will only be back for a limited time. That means the character will likely only be seen in the first few episodes at best. The good news, though, is that Kinney's return means that Lockett could as well. Lockett, who played Sam Carver in Chicago Fire, also exited the procedural drama after season 13. However, now that Kinney is being given the chance to properly close out his character's story, Lockett might be able to. As for Bradway, his return as Jack Damon, Kelly Severide's half-brother, is less likely. Unlike Kinney and Lockett, Bradway left because of scheduling conflicts. Our take on Ritter appearing in Chicago Fire season 14. The show never gave Ritter closure. All things considered, Ritter's return to Chicago Fire, even if it is only temporary, is fantastic news. First of all, it gives optimism that Carver and even Damon will return to Firehouse 51 in the future once Bradway wraps up filming every year after. But perhaps more significantly, it also means that Ritter will receive the justice he is due. Chicago Fire season 13 ended without revealing how or why Ritter would leave. But everyone knew his departure was inevitable. So, one could only infer that season 14 would write Ritter out of the series without Kinney. Now, though he can close out Ritter's story himself. It's still disappointing that Kinney is exiting Chicago Fire, but at least he can say goodbye. Enjoy Screen Rant's primetime coverage? Click below to sign up for our weekly Network TV newsletter. Make sure to check Network TV in your preferences, and get the inside scoop from actors and showrunners on your favorite series. Chicago Fire star returning for season 14 after frustrating season 13 exit. When Chicago Fire season 13 aired its finale, it left a bitter aftertaste for fans. Not because of a major death or a shocking cliffhanger, but because of the way one of Firehouse 51's most beloved characters disappeared from the show. The exit wasn't accompanied by a heroic last stand, a tear-jerking goodbye, or even a clear explanation. It was quiet, abrupt, and tinged with the sense that the story had been cut short for reasons outside the character's world. Viewers were left staring at their screens, wondering how the writers could let such an important figure simply fade into the background with so little narrative justice. Now, months later, news has broken that this star will return in Chicago Fire season 14, and it's turning the fandom into a mix of elation, curiosity, and just a little bit of wary skepticism. The character in question had been a fixture at Firehouse 51, not just for their skill on the job, but for the heart and history they brought to the show. Over the years, they'd survived dangerous rescues, navigated personal heartbreaks, and forged bonds that made 51 feel less like a workplace and more like a family. They weren't just a part of the team, they were a piece of its soul. That's why their season 13 departure hit so hard. Unlike the rare occasions when Chicago Fire builds up to a major exit with episodes of foreshadowing, heartfelt conversations, and a proper send-off, this one felt rushed. The reasoning was vague, and the goodbye scene, if you could even call it that, left fans scratching their heads rather than clutching their tissues. For weeks after the finale, social media was flooded with speculation. Some wondered if the actor had decided to walk away from the series entirely, pursuing new roles or simply taking a break from the grueling filming schedule. Others suspected behind-the-scenes contract negotiations gone sideways. A few die-hard optimists clung to the hope that the exit was deliberately underwhelming because the writers already had plans to bring the character back in the near future. At the time, it felt like wishful thinking. Now, it turns out, those optimists were right. Season 14 will see the return of the star. And while NBC is keeping the finer details under wraps, the announcement alone has been enough to reignite fan excitement for the fall premiere. What makes this comeback so intriguing is the emotional baggage it carries. A return to the show isn't just about slotting the character back into Firehouse 51's rotation of calls and camaraderie. It's about addressing the awkwardness of how they left. Chicago Fire has a long tradition of treating its characters' exits with care. Dawson's bittersweet goodbye, Casey's heartfelt departure to care for the Darden boys, Otis' devastating death that still lingers in the collective memory of the team. Those moments landed because they respected the audience's emotional investment. Season 13's mishandled send-off for this character did the opposite, leaving a loose end dangling where there should have been a sense of resolution. Season 14, therefore, isn't just an opportunity for more screen time. It's a chance for the writers to make amends. From a storytelling perspective, there are several ways this return could unfold, each with its own ripple effects. One possibility is that the character comes back with a clear explanation for their absence, filling in the blanks with a backstory that makes the sudden departure feel more intentional in hindsight. Maybe they were on a specialized assignment, training, or dealing with a personal matter that they chose to keep private from most of the team. If the writers go this route, it could even add layers to the character, showing that their Season 13 silence wasn't a lack of care for their colleagues, but a reflection of their own inner struggles. Another route could lean into the awkwardness. Imagine the character returning to find that some at Firehouse 51 are still hurt or confused about how things ended last time. That tension could fuel some rich, grounded drama in the opening episodes of Season 14. Friendships might need rebuilding, trust might have to be re-earned, and the character could face the challenge of proving, not just to their colleagues, but to themselves, that they belong in this tight-knit family after walking away. And then there's the more explosive option. The character's return being tied to a high-stakes emergency or a personal crisis that forces them back into the fold before anyone has a chance to process the past. It wouldn't be the first time Chicago Fire pulled a dramatic re-entry like this, using adrenaline and urgency to paper over unresolved emotions, at least until they bubble up later in quieter moments. No matter which approach the writers choose, the emotional impact will hinge on how Season 14 handles the why of it all. Fans can forgive a rushed exit if the return reframes it as part of a bigger arc. But if the show simply drops the character back in with no acknowledgement of the frustration their Season 13 departure caused, the comeback risks feeling hollow, a ratings-driven stunt rather than a meaningful evolution.